Hello, everyone. I hope you can all see me, and I hope you're happy to join this, our second Psychology of Marketing event. Just as an introduction, I'm Emma Murray, and I will be hosting this Psychology of Marketing event. Feel free, if you can see on the right-hand side, it should be of your screen, feel free to post in the chat throughout the presentations. Please also feel free put in questions, any comments, anything you like. Please just post them in the chat. We're happy. We'll be with all the questions. We'll answer them all at the end of the presentations. Today, we've got 3 presentations for all of you planned. I am joined with Olivier Carrion, as well as the Muster team. Each will be talking on a different subject. Muster team include Haidia Shah, Alex O'Riordan, and Razi Hassan. So yes, without much further ado, I shall start my presentation. Hopefully I can get it up. All right. Hope see that. Yes. Okay, good. So yes, welcome everyone. As I say, it's great to see everyone at this event. Great to see what an outcome we've had. All right, so starting off, here's what the presentations will be going over. So I'll be starting off with emotional marketing. It's a very interesting subject. Next, the Muster team will be talking about storytelling. And then Olivier will be going talking about how to make a business more human. Very interesting subject. So since I'm starting out with emotional marketing, I thought it would be good for all of you to get to know me a little bit better. As I say, my name's Emma Murray, but on top of that, I've tried to lay my cards out as much as I can. The picture that you see in the presentation there, that's actually a fMRI of my brain. So you can see all the thoughts in my head. If you'd like, I felt like that was a good introduction to who I am. I do like my brain scans, as you'll see throughout the rest of this presentation. But yes, okay, moving on to actual emotional marketing. So with emotional marketing, I want to teach you not just how to implement emotional marketing, but also why emotional marketing is important and why it is necessary for effective marketing campaigns. Firstly, let's go over some statistics. I know they're not the most interesting, and I'll even talk about how they're not the most interesting in this presentation, but I hope they get across the message of the importance of emotional marketing. Firstly, emotional ads make you more money. That's just a basic point. They have been shown to generate double the profit gains over purely rational ads. They're also better than ads that try to do a mixture of both rational and emotional content. Purely emotional content is simply better than rationality at all. It's a basic statistic, but it shows emotions get people buying more than appealing to sense or reason. The fact viewers who have an emotional response to an ad are 70% more likely to buy your product or service just highlights that further. Finally, the reason why UK businesses especially need to try extra hard to provide emotional content is because we're some of the most emotionally unengaged consumers in the world. Now, of course, we could blame that upon the British stiff upper lip attitude, but it's also the fault of the ads for not engaging with their audience in the right way. not understanding the emotions behind the British public. By the way, if you're interested, the most engaged nationality was apparently Italians, and the least engaged nationality is apparently Swedes. Just a little tidbit for you there. All right, so why is emotional marketing so effective? Well, it's so effective due to these three outcomes of it. It improves memory, it improves preference, and it improves loyalty. It improves memory of your brand by making it easier to come to mind and hard to forget. It makes your brand more preferable to your consumers. Their decision-making processes are swayed by emotions, and it solidifies brand loyalty. An important outcome of any business who wants a dedicated following that enjoy and want more of your product. Now, before I go through each of these outcomes in depth, I want to make one thing clear. Emotional marketing is not manipulation. We're not trying to bring up past trauma or emotionally blackmail people into buying our product. No, emotional marketing is about relating to the customer, to the person, to the human that we can all understand, that we can all emotionally connect with. Its aim is to benefit the audience by relating to them and generating interesting content for them. And it's also beneficial to the business because it shows how the product or the service or the brand itself cares and is not a clinical corporate entity. Ultimately, emotional marketing is there to make your business more human. So keep that in mind as we explore the nitty-gritty of emotional marketing. I really like this quote. It's a great quote from Maya Angelou, and it's one that I think speaks true for all memories. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I think it's especially poignant in marketing. Think about the most prominent conversations that come to mind, the ones you can remember better than any others. Then think about what you can remember from those conversations. Can you remember the messages that were behind those conversations? Can you remember where you were when you were having those conversations? Maybe you can remember some of the key words that were said, or maybe even you can remember the whole conversation itself. That'd be pretty impressive if you could. The important thing that I'm trying to get at here is that, can you remember how you felt during those conversations? I have a feeling that most of you, when remembering those conversations, can remember how you felt. The most prominent memories are often tied to strong emotions. And this isn't just me being whimsical or making things up. No, it's a scientifically accurate study, proven. It's scientifically proven. The amygdala is responsible for emotional processing, which allows for deeper memory encoding. Emotional memories biologically trigger our brain to remember and recall events better than non-emotional memories. However, this isn't just limited to events. The activation of the amygdala and deeper memory encoding has also been found with participants reacting to emotional advertisement. The areas of the brain associated with memory are more active when emotional ads are presented over non-emotional ones. This then correlates for those businesses or brands. The people who are recalling your ads and the brands will be able to recall them as vividly as you just recalled your most prominent conversations. Those emotional ties will bring it to the forefront of their memory. Preference. Now, this is a fun one. Mostly because I like brain scans. Okay, so when people say think with your heart and not with your head. Well, most people already do. Not in the literal sense. Your heart doesn't really think. But figuratively, in an emotional capacity, yes. This was a very interesting study. They showed people 2 brand logos, like I have there up there right now, Barclays or NatWest, and they asked them to pick which one they preferred. Meanwhile, while the participants were going over their preference, the researchers were reading their brain patterns with an fMRI machine. What they found was those green bits that I've highlighted would show increased activity. Those green bits are specific brain areas associated with reward and emotional systems. On the other hand, the purple highlighted bits showed lower activity levels than normal. Those purple bits, oddly enough, are associated with cognitive processing. Basically, how we logically and rationally decide things. So when your consumers are deciding which brand they like more, they're not going to care about the specific facts of your business or the statistics that you provide to them. No, they're going to care about the emotions that those facts and statistics convey. I mean, think about it. Do you remember all the numbers and the specifics of the statistics and facts you're given? Hell, I doubt a few of you remember the statistics that I gave at the beginning of this presentation. But the message behind those statistics, the emotions that they convey, the importance behind it does matter. And that's what you've got to get across to your audience. That's what consumers will remember, and that's what they'll use to judge your brand. Now, I'm not condoning here. I'm not condoning any fake statistics. Please do not make up fake statistics that are just shocking for the sake of it. If you are using a factual statistic in some branding or presentation or whatever, then there should be something important to it. There's a reason why you're using it. And that importance, that reason why people should care about it is the reason you should promote, is the reason you should focus on, and is what your consumers will use to choose your company over someone else's. Loyalty. Loyalty is a bit different from the others here in the fact that it has no brain scans. Sad times for me. But instead, we have a flow chart of emotional marketing acting as a step towards brand loyalty. As a brand, you'll be presenting things to your audience, products, services, media content, etc. But none of that matters if your audience isn't receptive towards all that content. It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it even make a sound, sort of thing. This is where emotional marketing helps. Emotional marketing can get your audience's personality, can target your audience's personality. Emotions are a universal language. If you make someone feel something, they may not have experienced the situation you're portraying, but they can certainly recognize and even sympathize with the emotions portrayed. How we feel is a part of who we are. If your brand can touch on those feelings, then not only will your audience like your brand more, they might even form an attachment towards it as they relate to your brand values. An audience who is attached to you is loyal. They're more likely to follow you on social media, leave reviews, reshare posts, and of course, buy your products and services. The audience trusts you with their emotions, so they should trust you to make quality products, and you should provide them with quality products. But like with any relationship, you have to be careful with people's emotions. If you are honest, transparent, and maintain trust with your audience, the emotional marketing can make stronger connections between your product and your audience. If you lie, if you deceive, break your promises, then emotional marketing comes on to seem like manipulation. In this case, your actions will speak louder than your words, and your actions will promote whatever emotional marketing you have going forward. At the same time, emotional marketing can be twisted if your actions are negative. Speaking a little bit on manipulation, let's talk about subconscious marketing. Now, before you get any ideas, I'm not trying to promote any subliminal messaging that you put in your adverts that try to mind control your audience. Firstly, it doesn't work like that. And secondly, highly unethical. But what I do want to highlight is how fast we process emotional material. The processing of emotions occurs in less than 30 milliseconds. The amount of time it takes to become consciously aware of those emotions is between 200 to 300 milliseconds. This means our brains start comprehending emotional stimuli before we even know what the stimuli is. If anything, that should tell you how integral emotions are to the messages we convey. On the slide, you can see two eggs. You may have guessed they're not eggs, but brain scans using an EEG machine. Specifically, they show the brain activity of individuals who viewed emotional material before they were consciously aware of what they were looking at and after they were consciously aware of what they were looking at. The activation in these two scans are quite similar. This suggests that the subconscious activity helped form the participant's conscious impression of the stimuli. This is all to say that something that many of you have probably heard before. First impressions are vital, but moreover, emotions are vital in forming first impressions before people are even consciously aware of what you're selling them, before they're consciously aware of your product, your service, even your face. They will get an emotional reaction forming their opinion before they even realize it. Emotional marketing is selling to the subconscious mind. It's attempting to appeal to experiences that can't easily be described. A bit of a tangent here, but something I like doing is trying to think of ways to describe an emotion, like try and describe sadness or happiness to someone who's never experienced it. Is really difficult to do and hard to come up with the words that actually describe how you're feeling. And that feeling is what we're trying to market towards. That's what I mean when I say it's a completely different language. It's so hard to describe in rational and logical terms. And that's what you've got to implement into your marketing. So how do we express emotions? Well, I'm sure many of you already know how to express emotions, but rather you need to know how to implement it. I'm not here to tell you all the simple things like smiling people make the viewers happy more, or people with crossed arms look defensive, or anything like that. No, this slide is more to make you aware of the different mediums emotions can be evoked in. Visual mediums, where you see things like facial expressions and body language, often appear in videos and pictures, and are the most common ways to evoke emotions. We are reflective creatures and often reflecting the emotions of what we see in others. Viewing emotions in others makes your consumers take on that emotion themselves. Audio and music is also heavily linked to our emotions. The message of a simple sentence can completely change with the way you say it. I'm good can change to I'm good. simple pitch changes reflects how someone is actually feeling. Even the words themselves don't have to change, but how they say it can reflect completely different things. I'm sure you notice how much music can make us feel as well. Slow classical violins may make us feel sad, whereas quick ukulele chords may make us feel quite upbeat. It is, of course, quite subjective as to what music elicits what emotions, but general principles can be followed. As a final medium, text is something that can often be neglected when you want to try and convey emotions. Some brands may come across as talking like robots because in their text, they don't actually talk like a human being and have any references to feelings or relationships or anything. They just have the specific information. If you're describing your product or service, then don't just put in all the spec information. Give the product a heart. Tell them how they'll feel once they have it. If it's a product or service that's meant to better or help your consumer in some way, which I imagine it often is, then there's no reason why it can't be described in terms of feeling. On this slide, this is where I wanted to give some general guidelines on what emotions can do. Fear, sadness, and anger are all generally considered negative emotions and aren't really something you want tied to your brand. This doesn't mean you can't use them, though. If your service or product is there to fix a problem, then don't be scared to highlight what that problem is. This is why I've labeled them as fear, sadness, and anger relief. You are relieved. You're not trying to scare your audience or make them feel sad or anger them by your brand. No, you're trying to relieve them of those fears, of those pains, of those anger that they have in their everyday life. With fear, you can show your audience what they might lose, for example, without your product or service. This can be something you've already given them, like discounts or a free trial, or it can be something more serious, like those car accidents ads you see trying to promote safe driving. Ultimately, your aim isn't to scare your audience away from your brand. No, it's to show them that you can relieve the fears they already have. Your brand is there to act as a comfort, not as the monster itself. Sadness is another useful for promoting sympathy towards others. If your business or charity aims to help those worse off, then show them how you're helping and how your audience can help too. Anger is a very good, inspiring action. Similar to sadness, it often comes from a point of wanting to help people. When we see injustice, we want to tackle it. If your business wants to do that too, then great, promote that. Get people behind your movement. For joy, I've just put everything it relates to. Joy is a very obvious emotion you do want to associate with your brand. It makes your brand more friendly, likable, hopeful, shareable, what other words do I have there? Entertaining, trustful, and seem more intelligent. Your audience will appreciate you even just trying to make them happy, because happiness is something that most people want. It's important to note, though, that you shouldn't neglect all the other emotions you can elicit for joy, though. Make the most of the range of emotional languages you have access to. Finally, surprise is a really interesting emotion when it comes to marketing. Its purpose is essentially to enhance the emotions it's attached to. If you give someone a happy surprise, they'll be more happy. If you give someone a sad surprise, they'll be more sad. Due to its enhancing nature, it should be used with caution. A happy surprise that get a 20% discount on all products could turn into a sad surprise when the discount doesn't actually work. To close my talk off on emotional marketing, these are some examples of some really good advertisement that successfully got to people's hearts and improved their sales and influence in the process. I'm really sorry, but I don't really have the time to show them off here, but I will be sending these slides out to everyone who's come to this event so that they can check it out for themselves and see what I mean by a very emotionally engaging ad. But I very much highly recommend you to check it all out. Thank you for listening to my section of the talk. I hope you enjoyed this little tidbit on emotional marketing and are interested in finding out more. At the moment, we'll be moving on to the Muster team if they're able to bring their cameras and mics on. If Haider's there. There we go, Haider. I believe you're talking about storytelling, right?
We'll definitely try my best. Good morning, everyone. Emma, first and foremost, that was such a great presentation. You've done so well. Me and Razzie were just saying how impressed we were.
Absolutely. You can, as far as I'm concerned, you can just carry on.
We'll just sit here and take notes.
Well, feel free to bring up your presentation now.
No worries.
Don't want to steal the spotlight.
No. Emma, let me know if you can see my screen being shared.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
1 second. Is that being shared?
It's yeah, it's sharing.
Sorry, just using another platform to screen.
Okay.
As well, right?
Yeah, it's on, all on. Feel free. Start your presentation.
Razzie.
Brilliant. Well, again, thank you so much. It was great hearing you talk. I was remarking to the team here that you're clearly a subject expert. That was really eye-opening for myself as well. So thank you again for that. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Razzie, and I am a director here at Muster. Muster is essentially an organisation which has been running for a few years now, and we specialise in connecting with local businesses and helping them to engage with their audiences. So we are a very local business in the work that we do, and we like that fact. And we work with numerous organisations, from local authority to a retail to commercial as well. And just to touch on, Emma, your point earlier, that we distinguish very clearly between marketing and communications. So for us here at Muster, communications is essentially the be-all and end-all. It is the holy grail. It's the most important facet of life, quite frankly, let alone business and enterprise. Is the substance of everything that we do, and many of you would have heard this before, but when you're born as a child, you communicate with your mother or your father, whoever it might be, whether it's that first look or that first cry or whatever it is. So communication is the essence of everything. Marketing really is the tools and functions of communication. So it's advertising, whether it's broadcast or whatever it might be. Okay, those are essentially the tools. So whatever we do here at Muster, we kind of focus on communication and how is it that we can connect with the audience by telling a story that is really emotive for them, and it makes sense. So we've got some ideas and examples and some of the things that we're working on currently, which we'd like to tell you about, and some of the other bits as well. So let me pass it on to Haider.
Thank you so much, Razzie. Appreciate that. So just a quick kind of definition of marketing. Not that anyone probably need it, after Emma's amazing presentation. But of course, it's the action or business of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. And the reason why I wanted to bring up a definition is because with the marketing, there's so many tangents we can take. There's digital marketing, psychology, as well as Emma touched on, social media, content creation, story. We're here today. So I thought it'd be good to just have that up. There's four kind of, I would say, elements. I mean, there's loads more, but of course for today's presentation, there's approximately 4 main elements that we're going to focus on, and then we'd like to focus on. So the first one being social media and the importance of social media. It's very important to be able to build your marketing strategy to effectively connect with your audience. As everyone is aware that I'm very certain that everyone on this call has at least got a social media app on their phone. If not, use one at least this morning, or will do at some point today. Whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, my list goes on. Animation, I'm joining my colleague Alex here in a few moments. She will be telling you a bit more about animation, illustration, and how using those skills and that form of content, you're able to tell your story in a unique and frankly in a fun way to communicate your message to your audience and your followers online through your content. Number 3, developing your brand. So we believe that through creating quality content, you have the ability to not only enhance your online presence, but also stand out from the crowd. It's very easy to kind of, if let's say we're a coffee shop and, we have tea here, it's very easy to just take a picture and upload it online. But, we have to think about brand values and, how it makes our customer and follower feel. And number 4, probably the most important, about staying relevant, but also informative. There's 6 rules that we'll go through later on that will kind of tie into this section about how you can convey the same message but through different streams. And of course, this is where Master comes in. So we've got 2 main case studies, and I'm just going to sit. Alex, are you good to come here?
Yeah.
I'll just move in. So before I introduce Alex, have a seat, Norris. So Alex is going to introduce herself as well as the projects that she's currently been working on. So we're going to start with a boxing league team that we've been working on for the Watford and Luton area. So there's a few slides, so just when you're ready. Just...
Yeah. So Master has developed several projects over the last couple of months, and one of them is the BE Boxing League, which is a boxing league that helps to provide financial stability for the boxers involved. And the task at hand was to create logos for 2 of the districts in Hertfordshire, that being Watford and Luton. So it was up to me to be able to create something for these areas in regards to an actual legitimate boxing logo. So it's basically recognizable material from these areas. So, for instance, for the Watford one, we have of course, there's the Hornet in the bottom of town, on the high street and everything. So that seems to be a main staple in Watford that developed as time goes on. Because the key thing with creating visuals for businesses is to have direct communication with the clientele. So there was a lot of back and forth with management, with the clientele, and what they want, because it's very important to see their vision, which you're going to be able to use a creative outlet. So it's up to you to have kind of base communication. So these are essentially concept art that was developed from the previous images. So when I did ask management about what their vision was, it was mostly esports. It was mostly esports logos, because esports logos have this kind of simplified, kind of cool, very sleek kind of mascots with a bit of energy to them. So that's basically the same what I sort of applied to those drawings. The same thing can be applied to Luton. So these are the concept arts, and they slowly developed into something a lot more tangible over time. There's the area, and the reason we chose like a fox with a hat on is because Luton is well versed in its history for hat making and everything.
I think the football club's the Bad Hatters. Hatters, sorry.
Yeah, just the hatters. So
Hatters, oh.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but that's basically where we are in that kind of regard. But it's the visual content, regardless of whether it's the final product or if it's a pitch or something. using that visual content made for your client allows the end product to look a lot more tangible, a lot more real. So they're a lot more invested in your idea when you come, or when we come as an ideas company, when we come with the ideas presented. If you have the visual content ready, then they're more inclined to support you.
Definitely. For the second example, Alex, a good question to ask in front of the audience we have today is, in your opinion, obviously you being someone that studied this at university, you know, you've done freelance work as well as other projects for Muster. It would be great to tell the audience what your opinion as an illustrator, as an animator, what would you say is the main advantage and benefit of, you know, using this type of content compared to, for example, traditional pictures and videos? What kind of, you know, pros come from using these kinds of images and this kind of creativity?
Mainly, we are visual creatures. When we see things, we believe, you know, seeing is believing and everything. So when you show this kind of idea, when you show these developments, then a lot more people are going to be on board with it. If you have concept art for a game, then, you know, that art is going to be developed into the final product. It's with that for a lot of things, regardless of what field it's in, whether it's whether it's creative or not. If you show those kinds of media, whether it be illustration, animation, or like architectural mock-ups or anything, people are going to see that and they're going to want that. And even if changes are made down the road, then it's still captivating to them, because these people have an idea of what you're presenting.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'll just take a seat back, get back into the hot seat, as they call it. A second example is, this was the final. These were the final ones, weren't they?
Pretty much.
Yeah, before we move on, so these were the final kind of concepts. Alex, you know, she's our in-house whiz, and you know, we're very grateful to have her. She's very talented with this animation and illustration kind of stuff. Moving on to the second example. So about a year and a half ago, myself and Razi and a freelance videographer that we've worked with in the past worked on a project for the Watford Town Centre chaplaincy. Essentially, the brief was from the chaplaincy. They had X amount of pounds for their budget, and essentially they just needed exposure. So for those of you who aren't too familiar with, you know, what the chaplaincy is offering, I'm assuming they're still running. Maybe because of COVID, things have calmed down. They were offering a counselling and mentoring service to Watford, into Watford, so the shopping centre, the businesses there, and in the employees and staff. I think there's over 150 throughout the whole town centre. We met with different stakeholders of the chaplaincy. So we met with the Mayor of Watford, had some footage with him as well, Peter Taylor. We met with this. Razi, was she the CEO of Into at the time? Nikki, marketing director, apologies. So the next slide I'm going to show you is about a 1-minute video from the content that we recorded and edited and directed for the Watford Town Centre chaplaincy. The whole video is about 4 or 5 minutes long. Obviously, I didn't want to, you know, make you guys watch a short movie right now, but this is just an example. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear it.
I was intrigued to learn more about how Frances and her fellow chaplains were helping people in the workplace. So we went to see Vicky Costello at the Into Watford to find out how her team were benefiting.
Oh, in many ways. If we start with the Into staff themselves, so the team that work for me here at Into Watford, 150, and we see many things on a daily basis. And we find that the chaplaincy, and Frances in particular, are a great support to us, and that they can come along and do some counselling, or if someone's perhaps had a loss, bereavement counselling, and just day-to-day support. Our well-being is really important, and Frances is fantastic support in that regard.
So Frances, tell us more about the Street Angels.
The Street Angels are effectively our nighttime chaplains. So they go out in teams overnight, at the weekend and on special occasions. And they work in partnership with Hertfordshire Police, with the security staff, bar staff and managers to make sure that everyone who's coming into Watford to enjoy our thriving nightlife is going to have a safe night out.
So like I said, that was about a minute or so, as I didn't want to crop too much of the video. That's just an example of, you know, the different type of content that Muster has done in the past for our clients, and more importantly, what we can offer. So it's not just a specific kind of one or two, palettes of offering that we can give to our clients, whether it's animation or this kind of stuff as well. It's definitely being able to be done in the past, and we're definitely going forward. We've also done written content before as well. We worked with organisations within the Watford area, such as Home Start as well. So like Razi said at the beginning, with a multiple range of different kinds of organisations that we worked with and produced content for them. So before I carry on, as you know, we're coming to a short close momentarily after the 6 rules I was telling you guys about earlier. A very famous and successful marketer / entrepreneur based in the US, I'm sure a lot of you may be aware of him. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk, short for Gary V. Very, very big on social media. I actually came across his content for the first time around, I want to say around 4 or 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. At first was very overwhelmed with the content he was making, but over time, as I invested more into his content, his books, and so on and so forth. So this is actually a quote I'll read out in a second from one of his books. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. A very, very good book in my opinion for marketing. Just to give it a bit more of content, context, how to different platforms. Forget the name of the message, and I'll remind. The quote is one of the book's opening chapters about how content for the sake of content is pointless. Tone-deaf posts, especially in the form of comments and promos, just take up space and are justifiably ignored by most of the public. Only outstanding content can cut through the noise. So when in the presentation, how can we provide everyone who's on the call today, the audience who are guests today on the call today, with the most value? So kind of breaking it down within 6 rules to remember, which I'll go through now. So the first one being, it's native, it doesn't interrupt, it doesn't make demands often, it leverages pop culture, it's micro, and last but not least, it's consistent and self-aware. So I'll start off with the first one about it's native. The first quote when reading this chapter that really stood out to me is, content is king, context is God. Every platform has its own unique language, culture, sensibility, and style. So for example, if we think and look at platforms and social medias such as Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest, we know that typically they're more suited for richly designed visuals. So whether that's high content resolution images, whether that's videos, especially with TikTok blowing up over the past 2 to 3 years, it's video and audio is going crazy right now. So that's something that we highly suggest everyone get involved with. And then if you look at more traditional and older platforms such as Facebook, that's where your copy and content matters a bit more, a lot more. You can also insert hyperlinks on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. So all these different kind of opportunities you have with the different social media platforms is something. So it's very important. So when we say the term it's native, it's very important that we remember whatever platform we're posting on, we have to tailor the content to that platform. A common mistake that a lot of marketers make, and it's easy to make this mistake. A lot of things come with practice and experience. We might take a good picture for Instagram, but upload that same picture on Facebook, upload that same picture on Snapchat, upload that same picture on your Twitter feed. Sometimes it can work, but sometimes it can't, because again, content is king, but context is God. Number 2, the content shouldn't interrupt, or I should say it doesn't interrupt. It's very important to be able to entertain your audience and viewer. As Emma said on her slides about how, people won't remember what you said or what you've done, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So if you keep people entertained, whether that's through following pop culture, which I'll come on to in a few minutes, or whether that's, making your own kind of businessy jokes or whatever it may be, entertainment is key for ensuring that you're providing great content to your audience. The second bullet point about keeping the content memorable, it's important to be able to find your own USP with how you produce content. Again, the example of a coffee shop and tea and coffee, it's all good that I can take a picture of this cup of tea and say, we're the best tea, we sell the best tea in Watford, but that won't say in the followers' minds. So you need to think of ways and unique ways, to create content around the tea and why people should come into your cafes or so on and so forth. Another quote I got from this chapter was how if we want to talk to people while they consume their entertainment, we actually have to be their entertainment. So an example would be is if we're placing our ads, let's say YouTube ads, we need to be very careful with, for example, what videos those ads are going to be in and how long they're going to last for, so on and so forth. And last but not least, your audience needs to feel that you understand them. This is something I feel from personal experience as well. This is something that I feel is highly neglected by a lot of marketers and frankly, just a lot of businesses. We as business owners and you know, staff of organizations, our main intention is typically our product or service, promote what we've got going on, whether that's an event, whatever it may be. But it's all about putting the audience first and, you know, always asking yourself, what can you do as a business to provide them with the most, you know, valuable content? Moving on to, it doesn't make demands often. So this was actually a very interesting point that I really enjoyed in this particular chapter of the book, about how your content should be made simple, memorable, and making it inviting to look at and making it fun to read. This is actually from a gentleman called Leo Burnett. I'm not sure if anyone on the call right now has come across his content or his work before. So, you know, it is important to be able to, like I said, make it simple, make it memorable, make it inviting to look at, and make it fun to read. You want to be able to you want to always be able to ensure that your audience is feeling entertained, and that, you know, you're able to provide a certain value to them, not just constantly selling, you know, hey, you know, we've got this sale going on, or we've got this new item on our shelves, or whatever it may be. There's three kind of main categories to focus on. I'm almost certain, I mean, I've got my phone right here. I'm almost certain that if this presentation was in real life right now and everyone on the call right now was in front of me, I can almost assure everyone that if I was to pick up anybody's phone and open their home screen, I could either find one of the three apps, if not more than likely all three of these apps. So a social media app such as Facebook or Twitter, an entertainment app such as Spotify, YouTube, or Netflix, and number three, a utility app, whether that's something like to do with spiritual well-being, or whether there's something to do with your bills or personal finance or weight loss or whatever it may be. So it's very important to remember these three main categories, because when you are producing your content, if your content falls under these three categories, more than likely you're going to be able to build a longer lasting audience. Taking me on to my next point about how you should make your content about what your audience values. So us Mustard being a content creation agency, we understand more than likely our clients will be small businesses, local businesses who want to expand their palette, want to expand their reach. So it's important for us to be able to come up with, you know, easy ideas on how to you know, pitch what Mustard does, but in the least pitchy way, if that makes sense. So finding ways to let the audience know and let our followers know on social media, you know, like, hey guys, this is what we do, without actually saying, hey guys, this is what we do. This is something that I feel, if anyone's taking notes right now, this is definitely something to take notes on, about how generosity, being informative, funny, and inspiring are four very important traits to remember. The reason why I say this is because these are things as humans that we enjoy in one another. So, for example, if you've gone to a networking event, you're gonna, well, most of the time anyways, you're gonna attract towards the people. You know, you're gonna feel attracted towards the people who are, you know, give you the energy of generosity, informative, and being funny and inspiring. So if these four elements and these four traits fall into, you know, your content as well, we believe that you're onto a home run as well. So shortly coming to a close, about the next stop being it leverages pop culture. So it's aware of trends. It's very easy nowadays with things like Twitter, where hashtags are trending on a daily basis. So just a disclaimer before I make the next point. I was born in '96, so maybe I missed out the era of cassettes and the CDs and stuff. I mean, obviously I don't remember having CDs growing up, but, you know, by the time I got to secondary school in 2007, 2008, you know, we already had platforms like LimeWire and YouTube to listen to music, and MP3 players were still around. But kind of just talking from a broader point of view, how, you know, at one point there was the water fountain gossip. school kids or teenagers would have to meet up somewhere, to kind of discuss pop culture, new music that's been out. Your main bit of information will be coming from literally word of mouth at the time. And then as technology expanded and went further on and developed, it went to kind of meeting with your friends to listen to cassettes, borrowing each other's headphones, so on and so forth. And then, of course, it developed into hanging out at car parks or, malls or whatever it may be to listen to CDs. And now, in our fingertips, we've got YouTube here, we've got Spotify, we've got Apple Music, podcasts, Netflix, everything's, in our fingertips, on our fingertips. So very important to be able to stay aware of trends, actually understand who your audience is. Celebrity culture, influencers, public figures, despite what you may feel and think towards, how superficial stuff can be, it is very important to understand that influencers and public figures as celebrities are highly impactful on the type of content that we produce as small businesses and businesses in general. Something to ask yourself on a regular basis is, who is my audience and what matters to them? This is something, again, has been highly neglected by a lot of marketers. This is where the term jab, 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 right hook comes from. Jab in this context is, providing value, and the right hook in this case would be as the close, asking for business. Most of us do it the other way around. Most of us ask rather than give. And it's a very, it could be a new piece of information to get your head around. You're probably thinking, that's not how we've done it for years, which is completely understandable, but, it is something that from experience I can say works very well. Coming to a last bullet about micro. Now, we've been talking about content this whole time, so now I'm going to say something that's kind of going to spin you guys off a tiny bit, but don't think of your content as content, but think of your content as little nuggets of information. So to give you context, is an example of the 2013 Super Bowl. There was a blackout during the game for around half an hour, if I'm not mistaken, and players had to take a break for another 30 minutes whilst the stadium got their lights back on. And during that time, during the power cut, Oreos, I'm sure you all know who Oreos are. If not, you should go try them today because they're amazing. They should sponsor us as well. Oreos tweeted this: power out, no problem. You can still dunk in the dark, and you can see there's a picture of a lone wolf Oreo sitting in the corner. Now, if you can see from this example that there was no right hook. They're not asking for anything. It's purely entertainment. It's funny. It's micro. They done it in the moment. They're utilizing the opportunity that they have. They know most of America at the time would be watching the Super Bowl, and within minutes, you've got tens of thousands of retweets, likes, and shares on Facebook. So that's just an example of it being micro, and why it's important to think of your content as I said there, as little nuggets of information rather than content. And kind of coming to an end in a second, it's micro as well. Never underestimate the value of a fun surprise like Oreo's done, and throw regular jabs at your consumers. Like I said, if we feel, as even us as a content creation agency, if we constantly feel that the brands that we like and follow are always asking for our money and asking us to come in and buy, we're gonna feel a bit anti towards them. That's why it's important to follow the conversation, see what's trending, and see, most importantly, how can your business and the content that you're producing and posting online, how is it following the conversation to make people more aware of the fact that, for example, this particular celebrity has gone through X, Y, and Z. Mustard just tweeted about it. And, if we found our own unique flair, our own unique way to talk about it from a content creation agency point of view, that's even better. Apologies, I did say that was the last one. This is actually the last one, I promise. The sixth rule to remember is it's consistent and self-aware. Your core story must remain constant. If you've been quick to read the third bullet point about tea with Nan versus drinks at the club, I'll explain in a minute. You're probably laughing. You're thinking, what's this guy talking about? So before I move on to that one, though, who are we is a question that you should be asking yourself, and your staff members should be asking yourselves on a daily basis. Because once you're more aware of who you are and what it is that you're here to do as a business and as an organization, you're able to then tailor your content creation and your stories to that objective. So the example of tea with naan versus drinks at the club, the best way to describe it is, okay, I'm Haider, I'm working for Muster, I'm here with my colleagues Alex and Razi. I am who I am all around the clock, but of course, depending on who I'm with and the setting and the environment, of course, we all will change our mannerisms and our etiquette. So, for example, how you speak when you go to, for example, drink tea with your nan will, of course, be different to how you act with your friends when you go for drinks at the club or when you go to a bar or a pub. So you need to own the relationship with your customer that same way. How you interact with different customers on different platforms will vary. How you speak and engage with your audience on platforms such as Twitter may be different to Instagram, maybe different to Facebook, maybe different to Snapchat, if anyone still even uses Snapchat for businesses nowadays. But yeah, that's kind of it from us, guys. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation. I understand it was a bit long and there was a lot of information to process. If you would like a copy of this, please do let me know, or Emma, and then she can connect you with myself, and then I'll forward you this presentation. Obviously, please do connect with us on LinkedIn, myself, Razi, and Alex. Our website, muster.co.uk, is currently being rebranded. Unfortunately, we couldn't get done on time for today, but we offer free ideas as well. So if you are looking for new ways to connect with your audience, please do get in touch with either myself, Alex, or Razi. I'll put my email in the chat in a minute. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Haider. That was a great presentation, and thank you to Razi and Alex as well. I loved listening to that. It was amazing. I am very aware of time. I will say to everyone that I have extended the time of the event to 12, but obviously if you need to leave sooner, then I understand that. I'll quickly move on to Olivier so he can get his part done. But yes, thank you, Haider. And we can move on. All right, Olivier?
Ready when you are.
Perfect. Go ahead. Take it away.
Thank you, Emma, and good morning, everyone. A very big thank you to you, Emma, for your presentation, and also the Muster team, Razi, Haider, and Alex. Lots of information and actually a lot of gold dust being shared today. Well, folks, if you don't mind, I don't have any slides today, and I thought it might be a good idea, if you're okay with it, to have a chat, to really have a chat and discuss marketing. But first, a few words about my background. I have spent many decades being a mentor and a consultant to organizations large and small in different countries in Europe, in North America, and the United States, Canada, and also about 10 different countries in Africa. Really enjoyed working with everyone that I met and journeyed with. In the UK since 1999, this is the longest I've ever lived in any country, including my home country of Belgium, where I had several businesses that I grew. So I know what it takes to grow a business and what it requires to make it grow and prosper. In the UK, I've been working with very large companies, initially very large ones indeed, for the first 12 years, and then I diversified and started to work with SMEs and smaller businesses. And today I work with a variety of different businesses. I work one-to-one with a business owner, but also I work with groups. I have mastermind groups, and I also have a fantastic program called the Virtual Board with my good friend Dexter Moscow, who's with us today. And it's such a pleasure to work together. And it's interesting, the conversation that I had before we started the meeting officially, just before we started, with two individuals. One of them said, I've had a whole raft of new business recently. Fantastic. But the other one said, ooh, things have been slow. Not so good, not so good. But it goes to show that it can be challenging, can't it? And would you agree that marketing is challenging? In my experience over the last few decades, and I won't tell you how many decades, marketing has been and remains a very challenging thing. I like to use a metaphor. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a river. The water is quite low, and you can stand in the middle of the river on the pebbles, and you look at the water and you reach with your hands and you're trying to catch a fish with your bare hands. Have you ever tried that? It is quite difficult, isn't it? Absolutely. But some people do it and they're quite successful. And that's fantastic. And the same way with marketing. You and I know companies that are exceptionally successful with their marketing. For example, if I were to say beans means, and you will say Heinz probably. Well, guess what? The company spent millions of pounds to program you and me to be able to say Heinz, because we know beans means Heinz. Another one is Coca-Cola, the real, and you would say thing. I would say exactly the same thing myself. Now, where does this come from? It comes from a budget of multi-millions of pounds and dollars worldwide. Our brains have been programmed, and actually we don't mind because that programming is not intrusive. But the reality is not many of us have millions of pounds to spend on marketing. And that means that marketing remains tough. The other metaphor that I like to use about marketing is that, well, it's a bottomless pit. Have you ever seen a deep hole or a deep well looked from the top way down? It can be quite scary. And I think in some ways marketing is also quite scary because we know where we start, but we don't know how much it will cost in the end, hoping that it will be effective. Does this ring a bell? Let me ask you, since we're having a conversation, would you write down in the chat, please, where are you in your marketing? Let's imagine we use a scale of 1 to 10, where 10, your marketing is absolutely effective and is bringing you the results that you want and more. That would be a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. But if it's really not working for you, maybe it's going to be a 1 or 2. So would you kindly put in the chat box there, where are you in your marketing? Are you a 1 or 2? Are you a 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe a 9 or 10? Please go ahead and put that in the chat box if you would. That will give us a little bit of a picture. And then, of course, the question is going to be, well, how do we move from, let's say, a 6 to a 7, and from a 7 to an 8, and from an 8 to a 9, and from a 9, you know where I'm going, to a 10. Well, it's going to take a lot of effort, isn't it? A lot of effort. So what I'm aiming to do today is to touch on a few points and ask you to feedback on some of those key points that I believe can make a difference. Now, marketing is part of what I do, and I don't call myself a marketing guru, but I have seen and experienced myself what does work. And it is so important, is it, that we at least touch on those points, and I would invite your feedback on some of those. So, marketing, when we start our marketing efforts, we are full of hope, aren't we? Full of hope that we will reach our target market and that we will be noticed. But hope doesn't seem to work that well. And sometimes it feels like we've been invited to speak to a group in a large room, and we're given a microphone, but the microphone is not switched on and nobody seems to know how to switch it on, and everybody is talking and there's huge noise in the room, and we're at a loss as to how we can get people's attention so we can give our presentation. How frustrating is that? Oftentimes, I believe this is the experience of many people, many businesses, when it comes to marketing. We want to be noticed. In fact, we want to be no longer the best kept secret in town. Are you a secret? Are you the best kept secret in town? That is very frustrating, because all of us have experience, we have knowledge, we have expertise, we have gravitas, and oftentimes it seems we are not being heard, we're not being noticed. So how do we bridge the gap? And some of those presentations that we hear and post on social media about marketing, and those two excellent presentations today really help in this area of marketing. But where are you? Where are you? And how strong are you and confident are you that your marketing efforts are bringing the fruits that you want? So let's dig a bit deeper. Let's dive a little deeper and look at a few things very shortly. I aim to speak only for 20 minutes, so let's move on right now, and I'll ask you to listen a little faster than you used to, so we can move on together. There are many definitions of marketing, have you noticed? Well, one of those really caught my eyes in my recent search, and here it is. I would like to highlight some words in that definition. Marketing refers to any actions a company takes to attract an audience. Attract. The attraction. How attractive is your message? How attractive is your communication would be a good question to ask. To attract an audience to the company's product or services through high quality messaging. What is your high quality messaging? What is your highest quality messaging? And how compelling is it? Marketing aims to deliver standalone value, here's a key word, for prospects and consumers through content. We've talked about this today. With the long-term goal of demonstrating product value. How well is your value being demonstrated in your communication? Another question perhaps to ask. Strengthening brand loyalty and ultimately increasing sales. And that's what we want to aim for, of course. No sales, no business. So let me ask you, what is the biggest challenge when we look at marketing? What is the biggest challenge you face in your business? What aspect of marketing do you find most challenging? If you would kindly just put that in the chat box so we can start that conversation on that aspect. What is most challenging? Because it is challenging, and sometimes it is very daunting. Getting quality staff. Well, that is also quite a challenge. Meeting the right people. I've recently talked to business owners about how to find higher paying customers, how to move up the ladder in their niche market. Sales. All that matters is sales. Thank you, Catherine Bean. Very important, all of this. Please feel free to add your comments as we continue our conversation. We'll touch on sales for sure. Well, there was a recent survey with about 120 marketers, and they were asked the question, as a marketer, what is the biggest challenge you face in 2021? The number one was generating traffic and leads. That was 47%. The second challenge, 21%, was providing ROI for your marketing activities. And the third one, 8%, delivering an account-based marketing strategy. And we would say a marketing strategy that wins leads and customers. So we may have a lot of challenges when it comes to marketing, but let's try, please, to stop being the best kept secret in town. So how do we do that? And perhaps it starts with understanding that the human dimension, as was explained so eloquently before, is absolutely key. Don't you love that quote? And thank you, Emma. The quote from Maya Angelou, people will never forget how you have made them feel. Feel, feel, feel is the key, don't you think? Like you, I go to many network meetings, and guess what happens in the network meetings? Everyone gets a chance to give a 40-second pitch or so. And what comes out of that? Well, most of them are very interesting. And I would say interesting is like just here in front of me. And I look at it and it's interesting, yeah. But interesting is not where I make my decision. And then you have sometimes someone who will present a pitch, and boy, does it hit me. I feel it. They seem to understand me, and that's where I make the decision to, I want to talk to them. So how do we go from interesting to, wow, this person knows what I'm going through. I really need to have a chat with them. And that is the difference. Because people buy people, first and foremost. Then, secondly, they will buy your reputation, what others say about you. And thirdly, they will buy your product or service. Only thirdly. So only thirdly, why do most people talk about their product or service? Eloquently, yes. Interestingly, yes. But that's not what I buy first and foremost. In fact, I would venture to say that people don't buy your service. You may be surprised by that. People don't buy your service. What they do buy, I believe, is how your service changes them, their life, their daily life, the difference your service makes to them. So the challenge, therefore, is not to talk about the service. That's a means to an end. I believe the challenge is to really speak to the person, their emotions, as was explained before, in a compelling way, in a magnetic way, where they say, oh, wow, this is what I want. This is actually what I've been looking for. That, I believe, is the holy grail of success in marketing and in sales. So what is it about you that people buy if people buy people? What is it about your company that people buy looking at the individuals, you and your team, because your team are your ambassadors? Well, I would suggest that you don't have to sell yourself. I suggest that really what people buy is the demonstration that you really take the time to understand them. And when they know, when they sense, when they feel that you do understand what they want, then it's a winning game. It goes in marketing, it goes in sales. Very important. So let's remember the question that everybody asks. It's a very simple one, but it has always been the same question. I've seen it, experienced it on all three continents where I have the privilege of working. And I see it everywhere here in the UK. And that's the one question that we all must answer. What is it in it for me? What's in it for me? That's the basic question. And the challenge is to express the value of what's in it for them in a compelling, convincing, and absolutely magnetic way where they say, wow. We need to move from interesting to the wow, I believe. And yes, there are ways to do that. And you know what? Oftentimes, I think that we have a line of communication, and all it takes to be more compelling is perhaps 1 or 2 degrees to the left or 1 or 2 degrees to the right. Imagine the gap and the difference further down the road. Just a few degrees adjustment can make a huge difference. And that's what I enjoy doing. That's why I have my online practice sessions. I have a series of 3 coming up, and where we practice how to bring those 2 degrees to the left or those 2 degrees to the right and be more compelling in our communication, in the value that we bring to the market, that is rooted in our expertise, in our know-how, in our experience and gravitas. And those practice sessions really do make a difference. 3 sessions of 2 hours each, starting this Friday morning from 10 to 12 online. Here's what one of the attendees of the recent series said: "I have newfound confidence in my ability to tell an engaging and compelling story about how I can help my clients. This small investment in myself has been without doubt the best business decision I have made as an entrepreneur." I believe that every business that you know, including your business, deserves much, much better success. Much better success. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of difference. So I would say that in the face of the challenge of marketing is also the challenge of confidence, and the confidence in the value that we bring. We need to learn to peel the onion skins in a conversation with a prospect, even in the marketing, and get to the core motivation, what really makes people tick. And that, my friends, is an exciting journey when we reach that point of really understanding what makes them tick and giving our service as a response and an answer to their dilemma. So that's it. If there's one question I would love to ask you, and please put it in the chat box. Let's imagine you have a magic wand and you have the ability to touch one aspect of your business, be it marketing or any aspect of your business, and make it change today. Change it completely today. What would it be? What would you change right now, today, that would make the biggest difference in your business? I would really love to see your answers in the chat box, and we will now move on to a Q&A, but by all means, what is the one thing, if you could change it today, would make your business a whole lot better right now? Thank you very much. Emma, over to you.
Thank you, Olivier. That was really great. Oh, I love the presentations today. I will say I am very distinctly aware of time, and I believe like people might want to get back to the tables and talk personally. So all the questions, I was thinking it would be best if we go to the tables, and if anyone has any questions, they can come up to us. Would that be okay with you, Olivier? If they to ask you questions, you can come up to me. I hope if Haider's around, you can come up to him and ask any questions you have. But we'll go back to the tables now. Again, thank you for all the presentations. Haider, you okay to answer questions on the tables?
Yeah, sure. So go for it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll see you back on the tables. Thank you everyone for listening, and see you there.